Fears are growing amongst dairy farmers that prices for milk sold for cheese making are about to be cut. The chairman of one of the largest cheese processors, First Milk, has warned that the industry is approaching a crunch point unless supermarkets are willing to pay more for cheese. Farmers are particularly nervous at the moment because the cold weather and the late spring has increased cattle feed costs dramatically. And if the cuts do come, a repeat of last year's protests will be on the cards. Ian Potter is a dairy analyst, and he told me why he thinks price reductions are a very real threat.
Cutting milk prices in relation to cheese is a real possibility because, as was highlighted last week by one of our largest cheese processors, the co-op First Milk, there are only two options open to them. Either the price that they charge for the cheese increases at retailer and food service level and discount level, or they cut the price to the producer. And at the moment, all of the retailers, all of the discounters are all saying no. In fact, some are even brave enough to ask for a reduction of £200 a tonne.
We asked First Milk if it was going to cut its price to its farmers. It said no, but it said it is on the spectrum of possibility and that it's negotiating with its customers, supermarkets, to avoid having to drop the price. But supermarkets would say that they pay a fair price for milk, for cheese, in terms of the global market.
Well, UK and Irish cheese, which is what we consume, is not globally traded. We're not in that marketplace at all. You know, we don't produce enough cheese in this country to satisfy our own requirements.
But we do get cheese in from elsewhere though, don't we?
We do, but our cheese comes from Ireland, a little bit from Holland, less than 10% of what we use, and 6,000 tonnes from New Zealand.
But for the consumer, times are tough, you know.
Kaz, we are not talking about the price of cheese to the consumer having to go up. You know, there's plenty of evidence that in the dairy supply chain margin, 50% of the margin is going to the retailers and the food service and the discounter. They've got a huge share of the cake. We're not talking about this being passed on to consumers. We're talking about a relatively small increase in the price they pay for the cheese in order to have security of supply of British cheese going throughout 2013 and into 2014. World commodity prices are explosive at the moment, and some of these cheese processors are already sending milk to other outlets rather than put it into cheese and hope that retailers in 3 to 6 months' time, when that cheese comes out of store, will be paying a realistic price.
Are you and farmers' unions overstating the likelihood of cuts and the damage that they would cause to build a better bargaining position in the negotiations with cheese processors that are going on at the moment?
Well, I took time to ring virtually all of the cheese processors in the UK that are involved and wholesalers, and I asked them all the same question, and every one of them said the cheese market is in a mess. We're being told by retailers and discounters, go away. We're not paying you any more money, and in some cases they're looking for a reduction.
When price was an issue last year over liquid milk, it resulted in protests, blockades, all kinds of things. If milk for cheese prices do drop, do you think we're going to see that all over again?
There's no think about it. It cannot happen. If it does happen, anything you saw last year in terms of protests will be eclipsed this time. Coming on the back of this winter and this late spring, it's inconceivable to think that we're going to be cutting the price paid to farmers. The revolt will be on a scale that we've not seen before.
Dairy analyst Ian Potter.